Welcome to the fifth and final video of my Acceleracers collectible card game video series, where we take a look at all 86 cards in the game and see which ones are truly the best and which ones can honestly just be left to the sidelines. So this video is going to be a lot more information, so if you want to just skip to the best ranking image and a summary of the best deck type, you can head to this time link that is on the screen now. But aside from that, we're going to quickly go through everything again. These are just the rules for base stat rankings, taking into consideration only what is on the card, not including the special abilities of various vehicles. And in adjusted, we take a look more so at realm advantages and instant wins to see which cards can actually do better in competitive play as compared to just what the stats tell you in general. Here we once again have that simple sample of where I took Synchro and Hyper Chicane and pitted them against each other to see which one was better in adjusted rankings. That was dealt with more in depth in the Teku video. And here is just a simple quick image where I had explained where all the power, performance, speed, or just kind of general modability and dual focus were in each one of the teams if you want to play a team built deck. For more information on that, see the Racing Drones video. Aside from that, here are the corrected and updated images for the base stat rankings and adjusted rankings of each of the individual teams. Some of my previous videos had some incorrect images on them, but they are corrected here, and every video is correct in terms of what I actually discuss. And so, of course, we'll be moving into the base stat rankings. So, we have all four teams set up right here. And when we actually put them into their correct line, these are the 86 best rankings, at least regarding what the base stats tell us. And so, beginning with the E tier, an absolute dead last across all 86 cards is Excellium. No surprise, given it is the only card in the game to have a total SPP of 7 due to 2 detriment values of 2. The step up is High Voltage, sporting 2 values of 2 as well. And then we see ascending orders of 2, 3, 3 with various terrain bonuses and mod abilities. If it weren't for having 2 detriment values, High Voltage would be in 83rd place. Viewers of the Metal Maniacs video will see Rolling Thunder over Hollowback for the dual mod ability, and after spec type we see the 2, 3, 4 cards with battle spec over baseline for its performance value. We then see the range of 2, 3, 5 and 2, 4, 4 cards that would likely have ranked much higher had they not had detriment values, that being once again the 2. And Magnesium ends the 2 value cards, bringing us into the D tier for base stats, beginning with Torqued Hollowback in 67th place. After Hyperspectite, we see the host of 3, 4, 4 cards. It may seem strange that Technetium is behind Hyper Battle Spec and Hyper Baseline, but this is because mod ability percentage takes precedence in base stats before we consider the performance value. And once again, for those viewers of the Teku, these two are tied completely identical aside from images. Back to the Technetium Hyper Battle Spec Hyper Baseline thing, the point is that the Teku's streak percentage is 37.5%, while the Silencer's streak percentage is 35%. Hence their rankings here. Next, the rankings continue to rise with the terrain bonus and mod ability percentages, ending the D tier with Torqued Pile Driver, and beginning the C tier of 344 and 335 cards with Audio 9. Same ranking rules round the tier out at Audio 3v2, and start the B tier with Audio 9+. This continues through the 345, the 444, and the 336 cards until we reach Audio 6. We then begin the A tier with Audio 9v2. Man, yeah, this card seems to start a lot of tiers and dead last, doesn't it? And this tier comprises the 445 cards and the 346 cards, ending at Audio 6v2, and then beginning the S tier is Audio 2, showcasing the 446 and the 347 classic cards through Vector Carbide. Vector Carbide. I got Vector Carbide and Vector Carbide mixed up there. And finally, we have the S Plus tier with the 447 cards, Audio 2v2, and no surprise in the lead, Hypersynchro. But of course, let's be real here, the true value of a card lies in the driver, not just what the car's stats will tell you, and so these are the true stats that you will really want to consider in terms of actually ranking these vehicles. And so this is basically my best shot at ranking these, and I have tried to be as fair as I can with respect to the game. Some may argue the detriment values are 2, but I really feel that is fair to keep them back. So if you're planning on playing tiered decks, these are the rankings I would recommend to keep games fair. So for the true E tier in 86th place, dead last is still Acceleracers. As much as I love the Silencer's cores, its stats made it the worst of the worst. There's just no benefiting this core. In 85th place is High Voltage, 84th Audio 4, and rounding out the lemons is 83rd is Vector Acceleracers. None of their abilities or stats can compete with every other core in the game, hence their abilities do not push them any further up the list, especially High Voltage with its simple keeping shifts into the second realm. Hyper High Voltage is much better. So in 82nd place is Hollowback, led closely by Rolling Thunder in 81st place, and then comes Baseline in 80th, Audio 3 in 79th, Battle Spec in 78th, Audio 4 V2 in 77th, Spectite in 76th, before we see Hyper High Voltage in 75th. Once again, Spectite has some boosted points here, mostly because of its 44% chance of a terrain bonus, the highest percent chance of getting a terrain bonus in the game. And it's got a basic ability. I mean, this, since the Teku focus on speed, and this gives you back a speed mod, that actually does basically immediately buff its stat if you immediately play that speed mod onto it. Of course, it's still going to be all terrain, so maybe not. But it still gives it much more potential just to immediately jump its stats as compared to the cards before it. Meanwhile, with Hyper High Voltage, although this card's ability effectively makes shift cards mod cards for itself, hence its placement over some of the competition, Power Driver gets 74th place because its dual mod ability lets it use 2 mods and temporary shifts, a far greater boost in the grand scheme. Metalloid takes 73rd place, Audio 5 72nd, although this is the cropped artwork for Audio 8, and here is the full image of that car. Unfortunate that we accidentally got it misprinted here in the English version, but the international at least gives us this beautiful artwork. Moving on, we see Octanium in 71st place, with Audio 8 in 70th, and again, this is the artwork for Audio 5. Nightlife in 69th place, and ending the E tier, just like in the base stats, is Magnesium in 68th place. Beginning the D tier is a perfect tie of Hyper Battle Spec and Hyper Baseline in 67th and 66th places. Once again, fans, you can choose whichever ranking to give it, be it 66 or 67, but I place Hyper Baseline ahead just for its better artwork. Again, Hyper Battle Spec just doesn't look right with how the vehicle is supposed to look. Meanwhile, in 65th place is Battle Spec 2, the first of the structured exclusive mirrored cards. And then we see the next mirror card, Audio 3 Plus, in 64th place before Audio 7 and 63rd. The next mirror card, Technetium 2, takes 62nd place due to its sand terrain bonus, boosting itself into an instant win in the Monument Realm. Then we see our ability underdogs of Hyper Spectite in 61st place and Torqued Hollowback in 60th. Hyper's potential and basic ability put it over the prior cards, while Torque's broken 3 mod return ability ranks it higher. But I cannot rank either of them over Technetium in 59th place due to its ability to let a player hold 8 cards in hand at the end of each turn. And just going to mention this because I have seen some confusion in how people will play the game. The 7 card limit is like Yu-Gi-Oh! It only applies at the end of a turn and for how many cards you can hold in your hand. It doesn't apply in the middle, so you don't need to discard until the very end of your turn. You can have as many cards as you want until the very end. But as good as this ability is, I find that Torque Power Driver deserves 58th place for its dual mod ability and terrain bonuses. But Torque Rolling Thunder takes 57th for its insane mod swapping ability to be able to switch any mods that are equipped to it with another Metal Maniac in the same realm regardless of mod ability rules. That is just too good, I think, for the Metal Maniacs. But nonetheless, that is still the end of the D tier, because their stats just can't compete with all the rest. And so we begin the C tier with Drum roll, please. Nitrium. Now, Audio 9. No ratified? No. So, jokes aside, we have a 10-way tie to start this tier off, as my realm advantage and instant win ranking system created a logic loop, aka a rock, paper, scissors dilemma. I'll explain once we hit Nitrium over here, but I do find it frustratingly hilarious that all 10 of these cards ended up on this exact same row. For my own sanity's sake, Audio 9 starts this tier off in 56th place, then Ratified in 55th, Jawjammer in 54th, Vector Metalloid in 53rd, Audio 7v2 in 52nd. The next Mirror card, Ratified 2 in 51st, Drift Tech in 50th, Audio 5v2 in 49th, and again this is the wrong artwork, that is Audio 8v2. Flathead Fury in 48th, and Nitrium in 47th. So what happened here is that since the values of 3 aren't severe detriments, Nitrium was able to beat all the 3-4-4 vehicles in this row due to its 2 instant wins, counting for 3 realm advantages each. But Nitrium loses to the 4-4-3 cars because their realm advantages are still greater than Nitrium's and its instant win equivalents. Basically like 16 advantages versus Nitrium's 15 if he counts an instant wins counting as 3. The rest of the cars naturally beat each other, but the insertion of Nitrium means that if Audio 9 beats Nitrium, which beats Flathead Fury, then Audio 9 beats Flathead Fury, and so on in a never-ending loop. So I have placed Nitrium at the top for being the only one in this row to have 2 instant wins, but the cycle was finally broken by Anthracite in 46th place, with Riveted taking 45th for its dual mod ability. Now some may debate this, saying it deserves to either be behind Nitrium or over RD10. Honestly, Riveted's position is really tough to place, but I figured it best between the slightly better stats of Anthracite and the instant wins and terrain bonuses of Vector Octanium. So that dual mod ability is just really good, so I have to push it up some. So Vector Octanium takes 44th place, RD10 takes 43rd, Audio 8v2, the last wrong artwork, again this is RD5v2, takes 42nd place, but to finish the C tier are the ability cards Vector Technetium and 41st, allowing a player to hold 9 cards at the end of a turn, and Audio 3v2 and 40th with its terrain bonuses and letting a player get back 2 hazard cards. I mean, everything else except for Torque Hollaback only gives back 1 card, so getting back 2 is just huge advantage, especially if you're playing a hazard heavy deck. So moving into the B tier, just like base stats, we start with a Mirror card Audio 9 Plus in 39th place, then Audio 1 in 38th, Torque Flathead Fury in 37th, Jawjammer and Torque Jawjammer in 36th, Vector Nitrium in 35th, and Iridium in 34th. Luckily here, with a performance value of 6, the extra instant wins mean that we don't have another logic loop, dealing with Iridium's 3-3. So next is our first Ghost Rare, Vector Anthracite in 33rd place, Torque Ratified in 32nd, RD10v2 in 31st, Hyper Drift Tech in 30th, Power Rage in 29th, Hyper Nightlife with viable stats as compared to its original counterpart in 28th, Audio 6 in 27th, Vector Magnesium in 26th, Torque Riveted in 25th in part for its dual mod ability, and lastly the final and best Mirror card in the game, Flathead Fury 2 in 24th for its instant wins and dual mod ability. But again, it is very closely tied with Torque Riveted in many cases, but as I mentioned in my Metal Maniacs video, I think it was the instant wins that pushed it just a little over the edge. Moving into the true A tier of cards, those you'll want for your decks and pretty much all you need along with the higher tiers, we have once again the third best Ghost Rare Audio 9v2 at the end in 23rd place, and Audio 1v2 in 22nd just barely beating it, due to mod ability. Then we have another logic loop. This time a perfect rock, paper, scissors with Chicane in 21st, Spinebuster in 20th, and Jackhammer in 19th. But Chicane beats Jackhammer and is in a perfect tie with Spinebuster based on my realm advantages and instant wins. But that power of 3 brings it down a lot in trying to keep up, hence I personally keep it at 21st, but again, junk and pawn. Cove Light takes 18th place, then Power Bomb in 17th, Reverb in 16th, Hyperpower Rage in 15th, Vector Iridium in 14th, and Carbide in 13th. And that ends the A tier. So beginning the S tier, those you'll especially want for your decks is Audio 2 in 12th place, Synchro in 11th, and starting the top 10 is Woohoo Hyper Reverb, fan favorite. We then see Hyper Chicane in 9th place, Audio 6 V2 in 8th, Audio 2 V2 dropping from its former glory in base stats to 7th place here, unfortunately. Vector Cove Light in 6th place, Torque Spinebuster in 5th, Torque Powerbomb in 4th, and the second best Ghost Rare, Torque Jackhammer, taking the bronze. Finally, we have the S plus tier of it all, the best of the best with more instant wins than any of the cores. Vector Carbide in 2nd, and no surprise, holding its title, Hyper Synchro in 1st place. But please hold your applause, because it looks like I have mistaken Vector's medal for silver when it was actually platinum. That is right, Vector Carbide's Realm Advantage total, instant wins factored in and all, is exactly 1 over Hyper Synchro as they tie in instant wins. I believe it is 8 instant wins total and 6 unique ones each or so. But yeah, Hyper Synchro's gold medal comes from its dual mod ability, but a smart racer will see the trends here and only run race cars, making Vector Carbide the true platinum champion. As for the best deck I mentioned, race cars are the only cars you'll want to run in a competitive deck. This will limit your mods to only race mods, meaning every mod you draw will be useful in one form or another, and the only major counter then would be the Hazard Ice Shrapnel. But this requires 2 team bonuses to play and your opponent potentially knowing your deck in advance to run this. Nonetheless, if you only run speed cars, you'll then be tailoring your 2 realms to be high escape value speed realms, meaning you'll advance instantly while your opponent is hopefully stuck, unless of course they're running speed as well. At this point you can have your deck stacked with power and performance cards, but preferably still with a speed +1 booster just in case. You don't want to be running these 7 value vehicles or whatever, these 6 ones, and then all of a sudden hit the lava realm. That'll be a bit of a stuck thing if you don't have any speed boosters. You'll then most likely either pass right through the enemy's realms if they're speed focused, or have everything needed to win enemy realms in basically one turn. Whether you run hazards then is up to you, but these would also slow you down. Often hazards are used as turn fillers when a player doesn't draw what he needs to advance, but when you do draw something useful each turn, hazards aren't nearly as important. By playing a speed racer deck, bad pun? Oh well. Your opponent will either have to outspeed you with their own cars or waste time trying to hazard you down. The only true counter I have foreseen to this type of deck then, aside from another speed racer deck, may be a power race deck running the Blizzard and Wind realms. 2 realms most speed cars have significant trouble with. As you see here, like Chicane has that very low power of 3, and even though Synchro and cars like that have a booster to make their power 5, Blizzard is 7, and then Wind is 6 with no terrain bonus helping these cars. So yeah, most of these race cars will have some decent issue with power realms. Alternatively, realms like Metro and Reactor may prove tough for speed racers, but with so few crazy high performance cars available, as we see there's not too many here. Got Torqued Spinebuster and regular Spinebuster, Vector Cove Light. There's really, I think, only about 4 really good ones. So yeah, the risk is just as high for yourself if you're using those specific realms to try and counter a speed deck. So in the end, these are basically your top 10 cars that would make a speed racer deck virtually unbeatable, save for Nightlife. Scratch Nightlife, use it if you are absolutely certain that you're not going to run into power realms. Otherwise, stick to these best vehicles. Anyone that has a 6 or higher in its speed value will do you justice. So, I hope you found this video series useful in picking the ideal deck for competitive or casual play, and so I shall leave you with this.
The Hot Wheels Acceleracers collectible card game. Get in the race.